There's a massive hidden truth about narcissists that almost no one sees. And once you finally grasp it, the way you view their behavior will change forever. When you look at a narcissist, you see someone who appears completely bulletproof. They walk into a room oozing an unshakable confidence, carrying an effortless charm that draws people in and projecting a suffocating sense of superiority that makes everyone else feel small. It is incredibly easy to look at that mask and believe they have it all figured out. Most people genuinely believe that narcissists are completely happy with who they are, that they thoroughly enjoy the pain they inflict on others, and that they live in a permanent state of satisfaction, totally untouched by guilt, self-doubt, or emptiness. We tend to view them as these unstoppable, cold-blooded, emotional monsters who win at life while leaving everyone else broken in their wake. But the deeper psychological reality is far more disturbing, far more tragic, and infinitely more revealing than the flawless surface they show to the world. The truth is that the narcissist is not the untouchable, powerful figure the world believes them to be. Behind closed doors, away from the audience, they are actually one of the most intensely tormented human beings you will ever encounter. Their entire existence is defined by a quiet, relentless, psychological agony that never stops whispering inside their own minds. This internal torment is so deeply buried and so meticulously camouflaged that even the people who live with them, love them, and interact with them every single day have absolutely no clue it is there. You are not dealing with a person who feels genuinely superior. You are dealing with someone who is constantly running for their psychological life from an internal monster they cannot defeat. If you want to break the spell they cast, you need to stop being confused by their mind games and start understanding human nature at a level most people never reach. Hit the subscribe button right now. Every single video on this channel is built to give you the exact raw, unfiltered insight you need to decode hidden manipulation, protect your peace, and change how you look at relationships and power dynamics forever. Subscribe right now, because what we are about to uncover next will only make sense to those who are truly ready to stop falling for appearances and look at the brutal reality beneath the surface. Once you look beneath that surface, you immediately run into the actual engine that drives all narcissistic behavior, which is a chronic, gnawing emptiness that lives at the exact center of their identity. This is the first and most defining sign of their deep internal suffering, and it is almost completely invisible to the outside world. To the casual observer, a narcissist looks like they are overflowing with self-importance, totally drenched in self-admiration, and entirely full of themselves. But if you could step inside their mind, you would see that the opposite is true. Internally, there is a completely hollow space, a massive black hole, where a healthy, stable sense of self should be. They do not actually have a real identity. This emptiness is not something they feel every now and then when they have a bad day, nor is it triggered by a specific stressful situation. It is a permanent, agonizing background noise that follows them into every single room they walk into, every relationship they build, and every milestone they achieve. It is a terrifying void that never goes away. They feel this void most acutely in the quiet moments. They feel it the exact second the applause fades, the crowd leaves, and the cameras turn off. The moment no one is actively looking at them, validating them, or reflecting back the grand larger-than-L life image they have manufactured, the emptiness rushes back in like a tidal wave. And because facing that internal nothingness is completely unbearable because it feels like actual psychological death, they spend every waking second of their lives trying to fill that hole from the outside world. They do not chase attention because they just love being the center of the room. They chase it because without your attention, they literally feel like they are starting to disappear inside themselves. They do not pursue status and prestige because it brings them genuine joy. They pursue it because the high of a new achievement temporarily numbs the pain of the void. They demand your absolute admiration, not because they truly believe they deserve it, but because the very moment that admiration stops, the distraction ends, and they are forced to look at the terrifying emptiness underneath. This is the exact reason why a narcissist can never truly rest, and why being around them can feel so incredibly exhausting. Stillness is their ultimate enemy. Solitude is their worst possible punishment. Quiet moments are dangerous to a narcissist because silence strips away the distractions and exposes exactly what their grandiosity was designed to hide. If you pay close attention, you will notice that they absolutely refuse to allow stillness into their lives. They will fill every single silence with loud noise, every moment of uncertainty with massive, arrogant declarations, and every empty hour on their calendar with a new conquest, a new manufactured drama, or a brand new audience. They are not actually living their lives or enjoying their success. They are running a non-stop marathon of escape, and the entity they are desperately trying to outrun every single day is the unbearable, suffocating experience of simply being alone with themselves, completely unmasked, undefended, and totally undefined. The second major sign of deep narcissistic suffering is a chronic, relentless dissatisfaction with absolutely everything they have, everything they achieve, and everyone they ever cross paths with. To the outside world, this constant restlessness is easily misinterpreted. It looks like a powerful drive, a textbook definition of high standards, or the unstoppable ambition of a high achiever who simply refuses to settle for mediocrity. But when you strip away that impressive exterior, you find a far more painful reality. The narcissist suffers from a total psychological incapacity to feel sustained fulfillment. They are literally broken inside in a way that prevents them from holding on to happiness. The absolute second they finally obtain something they spent months or years chasing, its value completely collapses in their hands. The new, thrilling relationship that felt like a fairy tale suddenly becomes boring and suffocating. The monumental career achievement that was supposed to change everything instantly feels empty and meaningless. The person they completely idealized and placed on a pedestal just weeks ago suddenly becomes ordinary, deeply flawed, and wildly disappointing. This tragic cycle does not happen because the world keeps failing them or because they just have bad luck. It happens because their internal psychological architecture is built in a way that is fundamentally incapable of holding on to satisfaction. True fulfillment is not about what you acquire. It requires an internal ability to feel safe, to be emotionally grounded, and to be deeply connected to your own reality. Because the narcissist lacks every single one of these internal capacities. They are trapped in a permanent state of psychological starvation. They live their entire lives frantically wanting more, needing more, and demanding more, while being completely unable to actually taste or enjoy what they already have. It is one of the cruelest forms of mental torture a person can experience because it masquerades as motivation, when in reality, it is a lifelong hunger that no amount of money, fame, success, or validation can ever feed. They look at their greatest accomplishments and feel dead inside. They look at the people who love them and feel absolutely nothing. Instead of facing the terrifying truth that the emptiness is coming from within, they turn outward and blame the rest of the world for failing to make them happy. They convince themselves that the next trophy, the next relationship, or the next group of adoring fans will finally be the cure. But it never is, because you can never pour enough water into a cup that has no bottom. This never-ending hunger leads directly into the third sign of their hidden torment, the constant crushing exhaustion of maintaining the false self. Every single narcissist constructs an artificial image, a highly curated version of themselves that is vastly more powerful, attractive, intelligent, and special than who they actually believe they are on the inside. You need to understand that this fake persona is not just a casual costume they put on in the morning and take off at night. It is a rigid, heavy, psychological fortress that they are forced to defend every single second of every single day. And the sheer amount of mental energy required to keep this illusion alive is staggering. Imagine living your entire life as an intense, high-stakes, theatrical performance where you can never, ever break character. Imagine the constant, low-level panic of knowing deep down that if the audience glimpses even a fraction of the real, flawed human being underneath, the entire massive construction will instantly collapse into dust. Beyond this, there is an even more profound, darker layer to their experience that often goes unnoticed by even the most perceptive observers. It is the deep-seated, persistent terror of being found out. Every action they take, every conversation they lead, and every relationship they initiate is secretly engineered to act as a diversion. They operate like a master illusionist performing on a stage, constantly drawing your eyes to their left hand while their right hand hides the truth. If you were to look closely, you would see the frantic intensity of someone who knows their house of cards is only inches away from tumbling down. The pressure of maintaining this facade is not just tiring, it is physically and mentally depleting, because their self-worth is entirely external. They have no internal reservoir of peace to retreat to when the world gets tough. They are essentially tethered to the opinions and perceptions of others, meaning their stability is constantly at the mercy of factors entirely outside of their control. This creates a state of perpetual anxiety, a background hum of panic that they cannot silence. Every interaction is a test they feel they might fail, and every person they encounter is a potential judge who might see through them. This inherent fragile nature of their existence is precisely why they are so prone to sudden explosive outbursts. When the pressure becomes too high, or when they suspect that someone has seen through the veil, their response is almost always a volatile lashing out. It is a defense mechanism born of primal fear. They act as if they are defending their very life, because in their mind they are. If their false self is destroyed, they believe they have nothing left. This brings us to a crucial realization about their capacity for empathy or genuine connection. You often wonder why they seem incapable of truly seeing or feeling for you, why they dismiss your pain, or why they treat your needs as an inconvenience. It is not necessarily because they are intentionally cruel in a calculated sense, although it often feels that way. It is because they are so consumed by the need to survive their own internal landscape that they have no emotional bandwidth left for anyone else. They are essentially drowning, and in their struggle to stay afloat, they end up grabbing onto anyone nearby, often pushing that person under in the process. The tragedy here is that the very things they do to secure their survival, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the emotional distance, are the exact things that drive people away and leave them feeling more isolated and empty than before. They are caught in a self-defeating loop of their own creation. They crave closeness because they are lonely, but they are terrified of intimacy because closeness invites exposure. Consequently, they keep everyone at a distance, ensuring that they can never truly be seen or known, which in turn feeds the very emptiness they are trying to escape. When you start to perceive the narcissist through this lens, the power they once held over you begins to dissolve. You stop looking at them as a master puppeteer who is orchestrating your every move and start seeing them as someone who is frantically clinging to a fragile illusion because they are terrified of the dark void within themselves. You realize that their behavior is not a reflection of your worth or your adequacy, but a direct symptom of their own internal collapse. This shift in perspective is the key to reclaiming your own power. When you understand that their aggression is a shield, their arrogance is a mask, and their manipulation is a survival tactic, you stop reacting from a place of hurt or confusion. You begin to observe them with a detached, grounded clarity. You see the gaps in their narrative. You recognize the desperation behind their demands. And you no longer feel the need to fill the holes in their identity with your own energy or time. It is important to remember that this understanding is not a call to save them or to change them. In fact, one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into is the belief that if you provide enough love, enough understanding, or enough patience, you will finally fix them. That is impossible. You cannot heal someone else's internal void because you cannot be the foundation for an identity that they themselves have failed to build. Their internal crisis is a journey they must walk alone, and they are not looking for a healer. They are looking for a fuel source. By accepting this reality, you are essentially protecting your own peace. You are choosing not to be the audience for a show that is designed to drain you. You are choosing to invest your emotional energy into people who have the capacity for genuine connection, who are comfortable with their own vulnerability, and who can meet you as an equal rather than as a performance. This is how you reclaim your life. You stop being a spectator to their drama, and you start focusing on your own reality, your own growth, and your own path. It is a profound relief to realize that you never had to win their game, because the game itself was never designed to be won. The goal of the narcissist is to keep you playing, to keep you invested, and to keep you guessing. Once you step off the stage, you realize that there was never any prize waiting at the end. Only more of the same, more emptiness, more performance, and more exhaustion. Stepping away is the most powerful thing you can do. As you move forward, keep this insight in your mind. The next time you find yourself feeling small in their presence or questioning your own sanity, remember the hollow space, the relentless internal alarm, and the crushing weight of the mask they wear. Remind yourself that you are observing a person who is running from themselves. Use this realization to anchor your own identity, your own truth, and your own worth independently of their validation or their disapproval. This is how you transcend the influence of the narcissist and reclaim your power for good. You are not a character in their story. You are the author of your own. And your story deserves to be built on authenticity, not on the fragile foundations of a masquerade. Keep your focus on your own growth and your own journey, and you will find that the grip they once had on your emotions begins to fade, replaced by a quiet, steady confidence in your own reality. This is the invisible weight the narcissist carries in total silence. Because they are terrified of being exposed, their minds are always working on overdrive. They are constantly calculating how others perceive them, meticulously rehearsing their reactions ahead of time and scanning every casual interaction for hidden threats to their image. They cannot afford to let anyone truly know them, because to be truly known means being deeply seen, and being seen means facing the exact parts of themselves they have spent a lifetime running away from. Snorts. Their life is an endless, frantic effort to keep you from seeing the person they are terrified to be. Every word they speak is a script. Every emotion they show is a performance. And every relationship they enter is a strategic move to ensure their fragile reality stays hidden. They are not living a life. They are managing a crisis of identity that never ends. You might think they are judging you, but they are actually judging themselves through your eyes, constantly checking to see if their mask is still intact. When they lash out, it is not because you have truly offended them, but because you have accidentally threatened the safety of their charade. By understanding this, you begin to see that their behavior is not a reflection of your worth, but a direct manifestation of their own inability to exist as a genuine person. It is a sad, hollow existence, defined by a desperate, lifelong fear of the truth. When you finally stop looking at the mask and start seeing the person who is terrified to show their face, the power they think they have over you vanishes. You stop being a spectator in their show and start being an observer of their suffering. That is the moment the game changes. And that is how you finally take your power back from someone who has been running from themselves the whole time. This profound non-stop exhaustion is exactly why narcissists are so incredibly volatile. It triggers their sudden, unpredictable bursts of rage, their constant irritability, and their obsessive need to control everyone around them. People in their lives are often left completely baffled as to why such seemingly powerful, successful individuals are so incredibly fragile, reactive, and easily wounded by the tiniest piece of criticism. The answer is simple. They are not just defending a big ego. They are desperately fighting to protect the only psychological structure that keeps them from completely falling apart. They are not arrogant because they actually feel superior to you. They are arrogant because they cannot survive the feeling of being ordinary. Their grandiosity is a desperate, exhausting defense mechanism for a self that never fully formed. When you challenge their narrative or call them out, they do not see it as a minor disagreement. They view it as a direct threat to their survival, and they will strike back with absolute cruelty just to keep their mask intact. If these exact patterns are perfectly describing the confusing, toxic behaviors you have witnessed in someone close to you, then you need to make sure you stay connected to this channel. Take a second to subscribe and turn on your notifications right now to join a community of people who are learning to decode human behavior with absolute precision and psychological honesty. The more you understand these hidden internal dynamics, the more impossible it becomes for anyone to manipulate, gaslight, or destabilize you ever again. True knowledge of the mind is your absolute best protection. Once you see the exhaustion behind the mask, they lose their power over you completely. The fourth profound sign of deep narcissistic suffering is an absolute localized terror of irrelevance. Beneath the carefully curated armor of superiority and the loud declarations of being better than everyone else, there is a deep, agonizing dread of being forgotten, overlooked, or rendered ordinary. For the average person, the idea of being just normal or average might be a little uncomfortable, but it is entirely tolerable and a part of everyday life. For the narcissist, however, being average is the exact equivalent of psychological death, because their entire identity has been built exclusively on the idea that they are special, chosen, and uniquely exceptional. The mere possibility of being unremarkable feels like a threat to their actual existence. This is the hidden reason why they absolutely cannot stand losing the spotlight, even for a single second. It explains why they will subtly or overtly sabotage anyone around them who dares to outshine them, and why they are psychologically incapable of genuinely celebrating another person's success. To the narcissist, someone else winning does not just mean that person did well. It means they themselves have been diminished, pushed into the shadows, and made irrelevant. This deep-seated terror is precisely why the natural process of aging is uniquely brutal and devastating for a narcissist. As time goes on, it relentlessly strips away many of the sharp external markers they spent their whole lives relying on to feel superior. Their physical beauty begins to fade, their professional power shifts to others, and their cultural relevance is constantly challenged by a younger, newer, and more vibrant generation. As these external sources of nonstop validation begin to dry up and dissolve, the suffering they have been frantically outrunning their entire lives finally catches up to them because they have absolutely no stable internal foundation to fall back on. Aging narcissists frequently transform into incredibly bitter, deeply controlling, and highly paranoid individuals. They watch the world stop responding to them the way it used to. They watch the external validation vanish, and they are left completely panicked by the ultimate unspoken terror that has haunted them since day one. They come to the terrifying realization that if they are not extraordinary, they are absolutely nothing at all. This panic feeds directly into the fifth sign of their hidden torment, which is arguably the most tragic: their total absolute inability to experience genuine emotional intimacy. A narcissist can be incredibly skilled at accumulating people. They can have multiple romantic partners, a large family, endless admirers, and thousands of social media followers, but they can never truly let a single human being inside their world. Real connection requires vulnerability, trust, and the willingness to expose the fragile, wounded child hidden deep beneath the grandiose adult mask. Because the narcissist is completely incapable of doing this, they live their entire lives in a state of permanent, crushing, emotional isolation. Even when they are physically surrounded by people who genuinely care about them, this is a profound level of loneliness that no amount of public attention can ever cure, and a deep emotional hunger that no relationship can ever satisfy. Instead of building a real bond, they mistake control for closeness, admiration for love, and possession for partnership. They reach out for human connection using the only tools they know: seduction, manipulation, and manufactured dependency. But because these tools are transactional, every single relationship eventually leaves them feeling completely empty and abandoned. Rather than confronting the reality of their internal psychological structure, they inevitably turn around and blame their partner for the failure. They spend their entire lives pressing their face against the glass, looking in on the warmth of real intimacy, but never being able to actually step inside and feel it. They are completely blind to the fact that the freezing cold they feel is not because the world is denying them love, but because of the heavy locked door inside their own psyche that they stubbornly refuse to open. Understanding this deep internal suffering does not excuse a single piece of the damage narcissists cause, nor does it erase the absolute chaos and pain they inflict on the people around them. But grasping this reality does something completely revolutionary for you. It entirely dismantles the myth that these people are powerful, invincible, or somehow winning at life. It breaks the psychological spell they cast over your mind, completely dissolves the fear they once inspired in you, and allows you to finally see them for what they truly are. They are not grand puppet masters controlling the world. They are deeply wounded human beings trapped inside a suffocating, lifelong psychological prison of their own.